On today's episode, we have an amazing story for you. We've got Tony Barnette, and this is his book, A Baseball Gaijin. It is the book written by Aaron Fischman, all about his story. He went from ASU baseball to playing 6 years in China before he finally realized his dream of playing in Major League Baseball for the Texas Rangers on opening day, April 5th, 2016. It's an amazing story. He's got so many incredible anecdotes, and he talks about amazing players like Albert Pujols and Mike Trout. It's one you're not going to want to miss. Be sure to stay tuned till the end, like and subscribe, and most importantly, enjoy the episode. Wherever you are and however you are listening, thank you so much for being back with us on another episode of Winning the Moment. Today, I have a fellow author with me, and not only is he an author, but he was also a professional athlete. I've got Tony Barnette, and we're going to talk about his book, A Baseball Gaijin. He played baseball professionally in Japan, and Gaijin is Japan for foreigner, or what did you say, Tony? What else?
It's basically, it's loosely translated as like outside help, as like a foreign helper. Just a quick correction: the author is Aaron Fischman. The book is based off of me. It's Aaron and I have worked together since 2008, and this is the accumulation of interviews and just working with a journalist for 16 years. So Aaron actually is the actual author. He authored it, he penned it, but every step of the way, it was me and him working together on this project.
How did that come about? Like how did this book become to life?
It really was, like I said, it was the accumulation of 15 years of, it started in 2008 when I was in AA Mobile, Alabama. And as a college project, he had reached out to some baseball players to interview. I responded. And then after that, we just kind of kept in touch for, he would call in with some check-ins, some other interviews. Then I went to Japan and I blogged for him for a little bit on my experiences in Japan, worked my way through Japan and then all the way back to the big leagues. And there's just interviews and conversations. And eventually when I was in Texas, he really got serious he had the idea. He was like, Tony, I think your story's fantastic. I'm going to turn it into a book. And he just started on that process of interviewing a lot of friends, families, teammates, people that ran in the Japanese realm of baseball. And he put in the legwork to really find the story and really to put it all together and write about 400 pages worth of a book.
Yeah, I mean, it's thick. It's a real deal here,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. It's a lot of baseball. It's a lot of family life. It's a lot of it's a lot of history. There's a lot of culture in there. There's some stuff that has nothing to do with me. There's things that have to do with just the culture of Japan and the game that gets played over there versus the game that gets played here.
Well, it's super cool. I mean, it's one thing to write a book. That's pretty cool. I did that, but it's a hell of a lot cooler to have someone write a book about you. That's like a whole nother level in the cool sphere. And I was looking through the chapters and stuff as I was preparing for a call today. And chapter 1, which I love, is why Japan. And I thought, what better way to start off the podcast than why Japan?
It was circumstance. It was until I had a teammate named Bobby Korecki. He was a reliever, and he knew an agent that was a Japanese agent. And it came to that off season after my AAA year. And until that point, Japan wasn't even on my radar. It wasn't even something that I was considering. I didn't even think it was an option. I was just playing baseball, doing things the best I could. And I get a call from him one day and he said, "Hey, I've got an agent, Japanese guy wants to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll listen. I'll see what he has to say. I'm not, why not?" And it turned out that there was some interest, to acquire me from a few teams in Japan. Talking to him, I then went and talked to my agent, and my agent met with who would then turn into my agent, Don Nomura. My agent at the time was a man named Dean. And he went and met with Don, realized what was on the table, realized what was really happening here. And then it started really quickly being like, okay, it's time to make a decision. So I thought I was major league ready. I thought I was on the cusp of getting, and then the Rule 5 draft rolled around. Nobody selected me, and the Diamondbacks didn't protect me. So instead of going back to AAA for what would have been probably another $16,000-$17,000 a year, I took the $500,000 pay bump to go pursue Japan.
So I'm curious about that because baseball's like interesting with the way the draft works. I feel like it's different than any other major league sports. So I know you finished your baseball career at ASU. So that's awesome. And then you got drafted by the Diamondbacks, which that's really cool because you've just been playing in Tempe, so you're just right down the street. And so you did go through the like all the minor league with the Diamondbacks all the way up to AAA. Is that right?
Yes. In 2006, I got drafted, rookie ball, 2007, low A, skipped high A in 2008, went straight to double A. And then 2009, I found myself in AAA. And then 2010, I found myself in Japan. So I wasn't in the minor league system in the United States for very long. There was 4 seasons there, basically 3.5, because the first year's a half season. So it really was a quick trip through the entire minor league system that I rose from rookie ball to AAA.
And you don't really you just said you were getting paid like what, $16,000 a year to play minor league baseball?
When I filed my taxes that year, I think it was like 16.7.
That's crazy.
What I made. I mean, it was because you don't get paid during spring training. It's considered optional.
These bastard ass professional sports teams just like taking advantage of you guys and your dreams. That's so messed up.
Right. I mean, technically it's optional. So the option is show up and give your all, or just don't even
or get cut.
Playing, which right. I mean, it's. I mean, for athletes, like whatever. I mean, we get our per diem. They stick us in the hotels. We're fine, but obviously we'd like a little bit more. But so from April until September, you're making. I mean, God, at that time, I don't even think a comma was in any of my paychecks every 2 weeks.
That's unbelievable. But did I see though that? Okay, so then you said something about level 5 draft. What is that?
The Rule 5 draft is a draft where if you're in the minor leagues for X amount of years, you become eligible to be drafted by any other major league team.
Interesting.
So at my point, I was in AAA, so I would have had to get drafted to a major league team and been on a major league roster. So it's basically a way for teams to not hoard talent and to allow players to move if they are of the ability and skill set that other teams deem they're capable of. So the Rule 5 draft is a way for players to potentially move on and upwards if they are in a stalemate in their organization.
And where were you stationed in your minor leagues? So you said Mobile, Alabama. Was that AAA?
Mobile was AA. I was in AAA in Reno. That was the first year that Reno had a AAA baseball team.
And I think I read somewhere that there was like a $200,000 buyout with the Diamondbacks when you went to the NPB, which is it Nippon? Is that how you say it?
Nippon, yes.
Nippon Professional Baseball. And so did you get that $200,000 or did the baseball team that took you got that money?
The Diamondbacks got that.
Oh.
So
they paid you nothing and then they sold you for $200,000.
My signing bonus, because I was a senior out of Arizona State, and when you're a senior, you have 0 draft leverage. It's basically like, here's a couple bucks, like take it or leave it, we're giving you opportunity. You don't have anywhere else to go from here.
Yeah.
So I had signed for $10,000 out of Arizona State. And then once Uncle Sam got his hands on it, it was down to like 6,200. And so $6,200 and a chance to play baseball, that's what he took. And then the Diamondbacks had whatever. Aaron, I guess whoever he interviewed to find that actual number would know better than me. But yeah, it was anywhere from like $100,000-$200,000 buyout that the Swallows paid the Arizona Diamondbacks in order to obtain my rights.
Man, who knew they were such shrewd business people? I had no idea. That's crazy. So let me ask you this.
There's a business side of it all that is just cutthroat.
No kidding. So tell me this. As growing up, you have an aspiration, a dream to be a professional athlete. That's a dream that I had as a kid. And so when you got drafted by the Diamondbacks, did it feel like your dream was realized, or is it different in baseball because it's not like in the NBA or the NFL where you get drafted and you're in it? There's so much road work that still has to be done. So what did that feel like for you when you got drafted by the Diamondbacks?
that moment was very cool for me because from when I became draft eligible in high school as a senior, I saw myself go undrafted my senior year of high school, undrafted freshman, sophomore, and junior years of college. And it was almost to the point where my senior year, this was my last chance to
Yeah.
see my name come across the board. And I had finally worked my way into a position to be drafted, and I knew it. And then just that moment when you see your name pop up across the board, 10th round, it was a special moment for me. It was a special moment for like my dad and my family to see. You know, it was something that I had dreamed of, something that I had wanted to be a part of, and something that I had thought that I was good enough to do. And in the last possible chance for me to be drafted, I got drafted and saw my name come across the web page. I was sitting in my Tempe apartment with a couple of my buddies, a couple of my teammates at Arizona State, and it was just like an eruption of happiness for me in that moment. And then the other guys that got drafted as well.
Yeah, I wondered, like, how did you get that information? So you're watching it like a telecast?
Just on a computer screen.
And so it's not even like a show. It's just literally like you're just watching the picks come in.
It's different now. Obviously, they've turned it more into
spectacle.
A spectacle now. But at the time, like, we were just sitting there looking at a laptop computer, and then I saw my name, and we just got really excited. And then right after the name got called, I got a call from the Diamondbacks from Steve Kometko, who was the guy in charge of selling me to the upper hands, and he was the scout that basically sold the Diamondbacks on me. And talked to him, and congratulations, and kind of got the rundown of where I was going to be going.
What a dream come true. I can't imagine the feeling of seeing that and then getting the phone call, just because that at that point is like a lifetime of work and aspirations and dreams. And it's different in baseball too, because you did have the chance to be drafted in all the years before. So it really was like your last real opportunity to get the chance.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if it didn't happen then who knows? Do I continue playing baseball? Do I move to the independent leagues? Do I sign a free agent, non-invite to, minor league camp? You don't know. But at that point, it's just fun because, okay, a Major League Baseball organization claimed you. And they said, we think enough of you to call your name, and we're going to give you an opportunity to perform for us. And as a ball player, in my mind, all you can ask is for that next chance.
Yeah.
And hope that you've worked yourself into a position to earn that next chance. And even if you do fail in the moment, you can sit there and say, okay, well, I can continue to work for that next chance. And there's just always that next chance until, eventually all of our careers come to an end and the lights turn off. But if you give up on any of those chances and you don't seize the moment, then you've done yourself a disservice. So I just kept working, kept playing, and kept, believing in myself. And when that moment happened, it was like, great, I'm so happy, but, job unfinished, here's my next chance.
Yeah,
now
right.
I have a different jersey, and I'm here at a different level. And now I've got to go and prove myself again.
And so when you got the call and you decided to go to Japan, did I hear you right that they were going to pay you $500,000 a year?
I ended up, signing for, it was a base salary of $500,000.
Wow. How did that feel for you? Because that's like a whole nother level of,
at that moment, when you go from college to the minor leagues to making less than what, the poverty number is.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden somebody dangles $500,000 in front of your eyes. I mean, it's life changing at that moment.
That's 31 times what you're getting paid to play baseball at that time. Because if you're making $16,000 a year, that's 31 times increase in pay.
It's life changing money, even in that moment, for a 26-year-old. Because now I have, not complete financial freedom, but at the time it's, oh my God, like, I can plan. I can set money aside. I can begin to save money. I can put it into an account and not touch it for a while. And in turn, at the end of that season, I was able to purchase my first home. So, and I paid cash for that home, and, almost left myself with almost nothing coming back out of that year. But at the end of the day, I was like, I have a house and I'm able-bodied. And if I can, as long as I can keep the lights on and pay my property taxes, like, I'm golden, like, this is mine.
Yeah.
And this is, and home buying is one of the better investments that anybody can possibly make. So in order to go from 26-year-old to renting and saving up money just to buy a cell phone to purchasing a house in cash, it's a life-changing moment.
Yeah, I mean, to have a 31 times increase in pay instantly is an unbelievable experience. So, and then you were with how do you say it? The Tokyo Yakult Swallows? Yakult Swallows.
Yakult. Yes. The Tokyo Yakult Swallows.
And so when you went there, did any part of you feel like you'd given up a little bit on the dream of professional baseball in the sense of the major leagues? Did you have any sense of like, obviously this is great for me and for your family, it was the best decision you could make, but was there a failure, maybe too strong of a word, but did you feel that a little bit, that you'd kind of given up on that pursuit?
There was that conversation with 12-year-old Tony that was like, what are you doing here? Like, are you giving up your dream of becoming a Major League Baseball player for a paycheck?
Yeah.
Like there was that internal conversation of, am I letting my younger self down by doing this?
And it's still professional baseball, right? You still were a professional baseball player, but as a kid growing up in America, when you want to be a professional athlete, you're thinking NBA, NFL, MLB, like that's what we're really saying.
Mm-hmm. There's a pinnacle.
Yeah.
And it is, for me, it was Major League Baseball. And it really was like, there was a conversation that I had myself with, and even like with my dad, was like, what am I giving up? Like, am I really giving up on my dream to obtain some money? And is that me? Am I a sellout? Am I, doing something that is against what I've valued all along? So there was that internal conversation with myself, and then also with the people that I loved and trusted in the moment. But so yeah, there was that a little bit of like, oh man, like here it goes. Like it's not there anymore. But on the other side of that coin was, I wasn't being wanted by them to begin with.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you're in a moment where you're just banging your head against a wall to get somebody to like you, you're in a tough, it's something that all of our friends and family would look at it like, you got to stop. Like they don't want anything to do with you. Like, walk away. And there I was being offered $500,000 by another professional organization. It just so happened to be halfway around the world. So, I think my dad, kind of spoke to it at one point, saying, you go where you're wanted. And I was given the opportunity to grow and develop when I went to Japan in a way that I probably wasn't going to receive here.
Yeah. Well, and you got compensated along the way. So when you got to Japan, what was like the mindset for you when you got there? Was it, I'm going to be the best in this league that I can be? Or is it like, I'm only here until I can get back to Major League Baseball?
If I could go back and do it again, I probably would have a better game plan, because I don't think I actually had one.
Okay.
And I was young. It happened early December, and now I had until the end of January to get all my affairs in order, because I'm now leaving for the next 9 months to across the world. So I kind of think the whirlwind of all that took over. And when I did get to Japan, I was like, yeah, I'm going to play great. I'm going to nail it, and I had some good mentors. Aaron Giles, one of them, you'll see him in the book. I work with him still to today. And it was just one of those things where it took me a while to realize that I'm not the first guy to go over there. I'm not the best player to ever go over there. There's been a laundry list of foreign baseball players, good and bad, that have gone over there and failed. So the game plan I really didn't have. I think I might have been a little arrogant heading over there, thinking that I was probably better off than what I was. And I learned very quickly about, one, how competitive that league is, and how easy it is to get pushed aside if you don't perform at the highest level.
And so when you lived in Japan, you were there for like 6 years before you came back?
6 years, yes.
And so did you ever pick up the language?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
A little bit. Definitely a lot. Especially in the clubhouse atmosphere, you pick up a lot of the slang and different, because guys are from different parts of the country, so you pick up different dialects and different. Yeah. I definitely learned a lot of the language, and tried my best to, be able to socialize with my teammates in a manner. And to their credit, the Japanese guys worked really hard to learn English and to know English, and to be able to socialize with you as well. And so I definitely picked up a lot more. It escapes me now sometimes until I get back in the setting of Japan, where all of a
Yeah.
sudden words will start flushing back or
Yeah.
rushing back, and I'll start to understand more. But I definitely and now it's fun because my oldest daughter, she loves sushi, and she's fallen in love with Japan stuff a little bit like that. And so
Yeah.
I can talk with her, and she like goes on Duolingo and she's learning Japanese. So I sit there and practice with her as well.
That's
So
cool.
it is cool because it's a fun language. It's a beautiful language too.
Well, and Asia is such an amazing place for so much history and culture. I've not yet been to Japan, but I've spent some time in China, and it is just incredible. And it's on my list to go to Tokyo. In fact, a friend of mine just did a bikepacking event where they filmed themselves riding their bikes all the way through Japan.
I would highly encourage your trip and give yourself at least like a couple weeks to do so.
Yeah.
It really is one of the most amazing places on earth.
So when you went over there, were you married at the time?
No.
No. And then, so where did you, and you have a daughter, are you married now?
I am divorced. I am remarried. I have two daughters and a stepson.
Okay. Did you meet your wives in Japan or in the States?
I met my first wife. We met in the States while I was at Arizona State.
Oh, okay. And so did you ever spend the entire year in Japan in those 6 years, or would you always come back after the season was over?
No, it always come back after the season was over.
And then, so what point in that span of time in Japan did you think, I'm going to get a shot to go back to Major League Baseball? Could you tell when that was coming up on the horizon that you were getting some interest and were maybe going to have those opportunities?
That didn't happen until 2015 when I was throwing the baseball better than I'd ever thrown it before. And to pat myself on the back, I was throwing it better than anybody else in the league.
Wow. Is that when you got the single season saves record? Like you set your team single season save record with like 37 and tied the league record with 41 saves. Is that season?
Yes, that was that season. That was hands down the best I'd ever thrown a baseball. I had risen my velocity. My velocity was averaging 96 miles an hour at the time out of the bullpen. And then I had even like topped out at like 98, 99 miles an hour. I was just throwing the absolute heck out of the baseball. I had developed a split finger fastball and a cutter to go along with it. And my curveball had developed into something that was also formidable. So at the time when about halfway through that year is when I started to hear rumblings of people wanting to meet with me, people wanting to gauge my interest in coming to the States. And so it was about halfway through that year that I started to hear the rumblings of interest coming for me for the United States. And until then, I had pretty much given up on it.
Oh, I was curious if like it ever stayed as like was that part of what drove you to perform, was the hope of getting to the major leagues?
After my first season in Japan, it was kind of a failure of a season as a starting pitcher, and it was kind of back and forth. It didn't really go as everybody expected. They brought me back for my second year in 2011, and that year they transitioned me into the bullpen, and that's where I began to flourish. I kind of jumped in both feet and was, like I've said before, I was like, I kind of was like, guys, I'm at your mercy. I'll do whatever you guys think I need to do. You need me to, do a cartwheel and throw a pitch, I'll give it a shot. And so I really did like jump in with both feet and make a lot of changes mechanically, mentally, and with my arsenal as a pitcher. And from there, it just, I was where, kind of that saying, like, be where your feet are.
Yeah.
I really embraced that and, took it day to day and every single day, every single one pitch at a time, and didn't allow myself to, try to be a fortune teller or anything like that. I just focused on every single day and showing up every single day, good or bad.
I love that. And so when you did get that contract with the Rangers, like what was that? Like what would you say was a more meaningful moment? Your draft of the Diamondbacks sitting in that college dormitory with your friends at ASU and Tempe, or when you knew that like you were actually going to go be in Major League Baseball with the Rangers?
It was definitely the signing of the contract with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Like that moment was like, this is real. This is it. Like I just said, like I'd kind of given up on that idea that the major leagues were going to come calling, and they did. I signed a contract, a 2-year deal that was basically saying, I'm playing in the Major League Baseball. I'm playing at Major League level. I'm
Yeah.
getting my chance. Here it is. Like I'm going to put a Major League jersey on. I'm going to step onto a Major League field, and I got to do it on opening day in my rookie year. And I ended up getting three. I ended up getting three more opening days after that, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's one thing to get onto a Major League roster and get called up during a season, but it's another thing to be on that opening day roster.
Well, opening day environment itself is a special.
Oh.
As far as sports go, there's not a better regular season sporting event than opening day at baseball.
Man, it's absolutely awesome. Usually, for the most part, especially like Texas, like the weather's good. It's spring weather. Everybody's excited for baseball again. I get chills thinking about it. You get flyovers. Everybody's so excited for baseball on that day, and you get to strap on that jersey that first day out, go stand on the line with the other guys that the team has designated as the 25 we're going to battle with. And it just really is a special day. And to be on the field and to go through all of that as a player, it really is a cool moment. And, it's something that I'm going to hold on to forever.
And Rangers have a great atmosphere. I had a marketing company, and I used to live in Houston, and we had a contract with the Rangers. So I've been to, hundreds of Rangers games for our marketing contract that we had with them. And it's always a good, lively environment there for sure.
The ballpark in Arlington was a really cool place. Obviously they've moved moved across the street to Globe Life now,
which was shocking because I thought that stadium was so nice. I was surprised that they did
it's
that.
Absolutely beautiful. It is one of the cathedrals of baseball, but it was outdoors in Texas.
I know it was down.
Those summers, brother, get absolutely miserable during.
Because it'd be like 100 with humidity and bugs.
The night before, and it's 104 outside.
Yeah,
it's tough. Tough to be a fan sitting in those seats. You're going to burn some skin off if you're wearing shorts.
No kidding. Yeah, I've sweat my fair share at Rangers games, that's for sure. So, so that debut was April 5th of, was it 2016?
Yes.
At age 32. So that had to be, I think in a lot of ways, that's more impactful because you had to wait so long to realize your dream and the capacity that you desired. And I didn't realize, I should have, April 5th. I didn't realize at the time when I was doing my notes that was opening day. That's even, for the first time ever to be on a professional field, for it to be opening day that's like extra special.
Yeah, at 32, I'm not the first to do it. I'm not the oldest to do it. But at 32, to become a rookie and be on there on the opening day roster, like, it was special, and it's something that doesn't happen very often. Once again, I can't sit here and put it all into words on how cool of a feeling it was to be on that line, and I can't imagine what it was like because my dad was in town, and for him to finally, for him to see it, and for my family and friends that were watching on. I can't speak to them, but it had to have been an exciting moment for just about everybody that's ever been involved in my journey to the big leagues.
I just realized as I'm looking at the year, there's actually a good chance I was at the stadium that day.
Really?
Yeah, because we were there, because we always, opening days were the best days for us. And so I had that company at that time. So there's a high probability that, unbeknownst to either one of us, that I was there that day. So that's pretty cool. So who was on that team with you in 2016? What were some of the big names that you played with on that Rangers squad?
The biggest one, Adrian Beltre.
That's right.
Hall of Famer, 3,000 hit club. One of the, probably next to Brooks Robinson, is the best third baseman to ever do it. There was Elvis Andrews at short. We had Rougned Odor, Mitch Moreland. Catchers were like Bobby Wilson. We had, I think there was like a young Delino DeShields, Sinshu Chu. Pitchers wise, we had like Cole Hamels, Colby Lewis. We had Prince Fielder was on that team. That's right, Prince was on that team. Oh, wow,
that's right.
We had a star-studded lineup.
Yeah.
We had a group that was, primed for winning. They just coming off a winning season, and we carried that into 2016. Unfortunately, we lost in the first round to Toronto, but Prince had his second neck fusion, I believe it was, and he had to retire suddenly mid-season. That was a huge blow. But there was some capital D dudes on that team.
Yeah, that I remember. Well, because we lived in Houston, so like my allegiance was always more with the Astros, and then our Dallas team would always, like, we would debate over who was better, and those games were always really entertaining.
Yeah, you people.
So, what was it like? Because how many games did you play in Japan? How many games is their regular season?
I think the regular season's 143.
Oh, so it's a lot over there too.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, because what's major league, like 160,
162.
162? Yeah.
The
So,
Major League season is 162 games in 187 days.
I mean, how is that?
It's quick. I mean, it's heavy. The schedule is you're 187 days from the start of April.
I didn't realize it was only 187 days. When you say it, because 162 is a lot, but in my mind, I always felt like it was like 250 days or something. To realize
it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't until about 5 years ago it went from 183 days to 187 days.
Wow, that's
so
crazy.
They did us a favor and added 4 extra days off throughout the year. So 162 days and 162 games in 187 days. The travel, the pace of the calendar, it's quick, and you've got to stay focused, and you've got to stay healthy. That's why when guys are like, "Oh, I'm trying to stay healthy, I'm doing this and this," it's really a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult thing to ask your body to sustain that schedule and that athletic performance, and it speaks so high to guys like Adrian who are able to do it over a 20+ year career and play at the highest level year in, year out. Once again, when I talk to people about my story is, by no means like, one of the things is I was like, do I deserve a book? Am I worthy of this? The answer is yes. I did make it to one of the highest levels out there, and I did it in a way that is not really,
traditional.
Often it's something that has not happened. It's a rarity. But there's guys out there that have done it better than me. There's guys out there that have gone far and above. There's Hall of Famers that playing right now. There's guys that are household names in everybody's house. But to be able to play with them, it just speaks to the difficultness of staying healthy over that time span.
Yeah.
And how difficult it really is, and what professional athletes are really being asked to do. So besides all the criticism that professional athletes do get on a day-to-day basis, these guys really are working extremely hard and trying to do the right things in order to stay on the field and perform for the people that expect them to.
Well, and I'm curious, you shared what your contract was, your first contract with Japan. What was that Rangers contract like?
The first Rangers contract, I believe it was a 2-year. I've actually got it here on the wall. I can actually tell you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
It was it was a $3.25 million deal for 2 years. The first year I'd make $1.5 million, and the second year I'd make $1.75.
Oh, that must have felt so good.
It really is a really cool feeling, and it's a cool number to look at, especially when you start cashing the checks.
Yeah, how did you get paid? How often? What was the frequency?
It was every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks? And
you think you're great. You think you're doing awesome. And then all of a sudden a guy like Sin-Shu Chu, or you get a glimpse of like there every 2 weeks, and you're just like, oh man, these guys are making like 20 million a year.
Well, for the listeners, because $1.5 million, if you get paid every 2 weeks, is still a $50,000 paycheck, $57,000. Right,
and then we're only getting paid from the months of April till September till the season ends.
Oh wow! So you
do it over like a 7-month period or 8-month period, whatever the baseball season is.
Oh my! What was it like getting that first baseball check? Did you buy something cool with it?
Well, I had gotten paid pretty well in Japan to start. Like I had signed a 2-year, $3 million deal or $3 million deal in Japan.
Oh, you did? Okay, so that wasn't your biggest contract.
So after my 2012 year, when I led the league in saves that year, I signed a 2-year contract, and then I was making some pretty good money before I signed with Japan. I actually turned down money in Japan to pursue the United States.
Okay, so you took less money to play in Major League Baseball.
Yes,
did you get in Japan? Were you getting paid in American dollars or in what's it called? The
yen. And I was getting paid in American dollars.
You were, okay.
Yeah, with the foreigners, they'll negotiate your contract in American dollars.
Man, so is there anything that you did by yourself that was like, okay, this is cool, I'm gonna buy myself something awesome? Did you ever do that?
I'm not going to say I was, like stingy with it, but, stuff I put money into the house, redid, I had an 1.5 acre property out in Arizona. I put the money into a renovation of the house to make it the way that we wanted it to make it. I renovated the entire backyard, added a huge like grass plot and landscaping, bought myself a new truck in 2016, got myself a Ford Raptor.
There you go.
Drove that thing into the ground. So like there was things I definitely treated myself with, some vacations along the way,
Yeah.
and definitely didn't go out and blow it all, but definitely enjoyed it while we had it.
That's awesome. So was there a welcome to the big leagues moment that you had while you were in Major League Baseball where you were like, whoa? Did you ever have like that, like, oh man, I'm in it?
You know, my debut, I ended up giving up like 2 runs, picking up the loss. So it kind of sucked.
Yeah. You've been waiting 32 years to get there. And
right. And then there you go out and just like lay an egg. It really was like, I think like at that moment, it wasn't so much of a welcome to the big leagues. It was like, okay, like Tony, you need to get it together here. Like you need to, like, whatever that was, like erase it and forget it. And you need to start pitching the way that you know how, because once again, I'm well aware of how cutthroat professional sports are. And it doesn't matter, and on the grand scheme of things, I wasn't making a lot of money at the major league level.
Sure.
So being expendable was still on the table.
Yeah.
Like teams will eat money in order if you're not performing. So it really was like that first night out, it was like, okay, like you need to figure it out. Like you need to get this together. You need to start pitching better. And I did. It really was just, maybe getting the kinks out, getting some nerves out. But I think like that welcome to the big leagues moment, I think it wasn't until we were in Anaheim, and I always laugh at this story, and I think he's known for it. But Albert Pujols is one of the greatest hitters to ever live.
Yeah,
he's walking. His place is just waiting for him in the Hall of Fame.
Well, if I remember right, the last chapter in your book is why Bean Pujols.
Well, is a different story.
Okay, we'll end with that one.
Yeah, but there was runners on first and second with 2 outs or with 1 out. Was there 1 or 2 out? I think it was 2 outs, and we're up in a game, and we're playing Anaheim in Texas, and I just do not offer him a single fastball. And I'm a rookie. I'm new to the league, and I just give him all these cutters away, and I end up getting him to like ground out to second base. And he has some choice words for me as he is going down the first baseline, and I'm walking off, and I just kind of like turn over my shoulder, and I'm looking for him. He's not looking back at me, but he called me a couple names for not offering him a fastball. And and I get into the dugout, and I'm like, hey, Pujols just said this to me, and like I hear somebody was like, oh yeah, he'll do that. Like,
so he's just trying to bully guys into giving them fastballs.
I think it was like his way of like kind of like trying to bully a young kid, like
a
rookie, into like giving.
So your ego will get in the way and be like, I'll throw you a fastball, and then he can jack it into the home run.
Maybe, yeah, but like I think I think he probably was like, I've never seen this guy before. He's a rookie, so he's got to be some young kid, and like not really like 32 and already a little salty. And I was like, listen, bud, like I've seen you one time. I'm not feeding you a fastball. Like no chance, bud. Like
that's awesome. So is there a stadium that was your favorite to play in?
Ooh, I love that question. There's some really cool ones.
Because baseball is unique like that, right? Like no one in the NBA is like, I gotta go to the Staples Center, or even in an NFL football, maybe Green Bay, Lambeau may be the only one, that maybe Soldier Field, but baseball, it's a thing. Like even for me, it's not my favorite sport, but I still do want to go to all the stadiums. Like I love going to live baseball. It's like an American pastime.
Some of the older traditional teams are probably some of the better places to go play. For me personally, I loved playing in Fenway. Absolutely one of the coolest baseball atmospheres alive.
Yeah.
I'm actually going back to we're going to go to a game in Fenway at the end of September, where I'm actually going to I'm going to sit in the stands, and I'm going to watch it as a fan. Getting to play baseball in Fenway was a really cool experience, especially because we got to play there in 2016. We got to play there as a day game on 4th of July.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that was absolutely just such a cool moment, just such a cool atmosphere for baseball, just a cool atmosphere for the day in general.
That's another great baseball day. 4th of July games and baseball are awesome.
Yeah. 4th of July baseball is fantastic.
I grew up in Wyoming.
One was like Busch Field in St. Louis. I really like that one, Busch Stadium. And then Chavez Ravine over there in LA. I really enjoyed that one. I think, sometimes sometimes ball players might say we have favorite places to play simply on how we perform in those atmospheres.
Yeah, sure.
But I pitched really well in LA one night, and I didn't really get to pitch there much, but it really is. It seemed brighter than all the other stadiums. You know, they have the gold seats. It just kind of seems like it kind of gives off that Hollywood feel.
Yeah.
Um,
Does
so
Wrigley make the cut?
what's that? Wrigley? I mean, Wrigley's a really neat place to play. You know, don't get me wrong, but honestly, I don't. It's not as memorable as some of those other places.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in
So,
Wyoming, so I went to the first Rockies game ever. And that's where my love for
nice stadium.
yeah, that's where my love for baseball came in. They got the trees in the center field and like it's a lot of good memories for me at Coors Field. That's a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, there's the baseball stadiums around the league. They're for the most part, they're really nice. Like the Oakland Coliseum doesn't make that list. Um, you know,
Well, and they're moving to Vegas, so we're excited. We're about to have a baseball team here.
yeah, they need to. Yeah, it's tough. I feel bad for the Oakland fans. I feel bad for that fan base because it really is when winning baseball getting played in Oakland, it seems like one of the most electric places in the world. Like that's just a different fan base
Yeah.
with a different mentality and a different feel. And for them to be done the way they've gotten it recently, it's you feel bad for them. But
Well, and
Oakland
Vegas took their football team and their baseball team.
yeah, Oakland definitely needs to get out of the Coliseum. That place is rough. You're down in the bullpen, and if there's too many people, there's enough people in the stadium, like the sewage runs right under the bullpen. So
No.
you just get to smell nothing but sewage for 9 innings.
Ugh. The cool thing about the Vegas stadium is it's going to be on the strip. So they are in the process of tearing down Tropicana. It's going to be right on the strip, and I think it's only going to hold 18,000, which some baseball stadiums will hold like 40,000, 35,000. But it's sad when you watch it and the stadiums are empty. So that stadium, because it's smaller and it's in Vegas, is going to be packed all the time. It's going to be
Right.
amazing.
And even like the stadium out in Summerlin, like I because now as a advisor and a scout for the Yakult Swallows, I travel around on the AAA circuit. That place is one of my favorite places to go. I go out to Summerlin.
That is a cool stadium.
It is. It's a nice baseball experience. And then for like the day and stuff, I'll go out and hike the Red Rocks. And I like that better than the old ballpark out there in Vegas.
So where do you live full time? Are you still in Arizona or?
I'm in Chandler, Arizona now.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So who was your favorite or most challenging person to pitch against? Was there a hitter that like always had your number and you just couldn't get him, or was there some hitter that you looked forward to challenging the most? Like any memories like that really stick with you?
You know, a guy I have nightmares about is Seth Smith. He was with the Mariners and the Orioles at the time. He was a left-handed hitter. I want to say I might have faced him like 7 times, and I think he's got 8 hits. You know, like it's infuriating. I don't think he saw more than 2 pitches in that bat. He was just on me every single time, like just no matter what, he knew what I was going to throw, and he was just going to barrel it somewhere. One guy, and it's funny, we've already talked about him. One guy that I think I could probably face, and you know, was Albert Pujols, and like I think career wise, like he's 0 for 10 off me. I walked him a few times, but I had his number.
No way. So then let's jump into that. So the last chapter of the book is why Bean Pujols. So what's that story?
I mean, it really was like I just hit him right in the face. It was
because
it was a 1-2.
Were you trying to hit him?
What's that?
Were you trying to hit him?
No, it was a 1-2 count in Anaheim, and he had been going off that series against us. I think he had 4 home runs already and like probably like 12 RBIs going into that at bat, something ridiculous. And I had a 1-2 count against him, and I throw this 2-seam fastball up in the zone, trying to get it to kind of move in on his hands a little bit as it goes up, and it just tracked right towards his head. It just like I just let it out a little bit early, and if you go back and watch the video of it, he just ducks his head at the right moment, and there's a still frame of the ball coming in like direct contact with the brim of his helmet, and then it brushes down and like grazes his face on the way down. But on TV, it looks like he just gets hit square right in the eyeball. I'm terrified. I'm like, oh my God, I just possibly blinded the best hitter of this generation. I'm not going to be forgiven. I'm getting kicked out of baseball. I kind of walked quickly in there to see if he was all right. The Anaheim dugout exploded. They wanted to kill me. And on the onset.
Oh, so they left the dugout.
No, they didn't leave the dugout
Okay.
right away. But they were top step. The city of Anaheim wanted my head that night. I got some not so nice messages on Twitter and things like that saying like better not catch you out of the hotel. But like in like it it got diffused very quickly simply because Albert's an absolute professional and he's a great human being. I got in there real quick and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like that was not, not my intention. He got up, he shook it off. He got down to first base. He was okay. It just kind of bruised his cheek a little bit because it did hit his brim of his helmet first. After the game, I was concerned. So after the game, I got one of the clubhouse guys to take me over to their clubhouse just to kind of check on him. Got to talk with Mike Sosha. And Albert came down and, gave me a big old bear hug and, we all talked and just kind of knew he was great about it. He was like, I know what you were trying to do. I know it wasn't intentional. That's part of the game. I appreciate you coming over and checking on me. Like he couldn't have been more pro about it. And then, next day, everything was just back to business and he diffused any tension in the media that night. And it just really was just it looked really bad at the onset of, this guy's been kicking the crap out of us all weekend. And now this guy's
hitting him in the face.
Yeah, hit him right in the face, and there was no intent there to hit him like that. I wouldn't have done that.
Did anyone ever charge the mound on you?
No, I got nobody ever to charge the mound on me. I was pretty good with my control. I was pretty good with my command. I definitely hit a few guys. I think I actually cracked Miguel Sano's hand on a fastball up and in. Mike Trout didn't care for me very much. I had this theory with Mike Trout that
he's an amazing hit. What an amazing baseball player he is, man! Oh my gosh,
he's one of the best of the generation.
Yeah,
he really is. And he's such a good hitter that he doesn't really have many weak spots. But one of his weaker zones was that up and in zone. So I had this theory and this mentality of here's the deal: I'm just going to throw nothing but hard fastballs, two seams up and in. And either I'm going to walk him, I'm going to hit him, or he's going to get himself out, and like he definitely got some hits off me, but I kept him in the yard, which if you can keep him in the yard, you're doing well. He's one of those guys you can't let him beat you through the lineup. So I definitely like got him on the elbow a few times, and he's usually another one of those guys that's a true pro in the game and great dude. And like definitely after I think the third time I hit him in the elbow, like he had some words for me going down to first base, which I don't blame him for, but it's just part of the game plan.
So as a pitcher, did you ever hit people on purpose?
Yeah.
What's the reason?
There's definitely a few along the way where you just kind of wanted to bury them into the ribs and let them know that like, okay, like I don't care for you too much.
And give me a reason as to like, what was one of the times you hit somebody? Was it strategy or was it?
One time I was in Japan, one guy took a little bit too long. I mean, it's pretty petty stuff, it's just old school kind of stuff. Like one guy, pimped something a little bit too hard and took a little bit too long and said a few things around the bases that didn't really care for. So I just kind of let him know, like the next time, like.
So he jacked one on you and took a victory trot, and so you let him have it.
I mean, yeah, that really wasn't. There was more to it. Like there was kind of like a history between me and this guy.
Uh-huh.
There was a lot of jawing back and forth throughout like our careers. So it was kind of like one of those moments where I was like, okay, like there's gonna be no harm, no foul here to the team if I do this. So here's a two seam in your ribs.
So I asked you about Wrigley and I completely forgot, but you ended up signing with the Cubs. You played with the Cubs.
Yep, 2 games.
Oh, that's it.
2 games of my career with the Cubs. Yeah.
Okay, so did you go from Rangers back to Japan?
No, I went in 2018. I tore my lat. Had to come out of a game against Houston. Tore my lat muscle. My season was over. And that year I became a free agent in that off season, and I signed with the Cubs and finished my rehab with them, and then got back to the big leagues with them. And then after I played 2 games in the big leagues with them, like that was pretty much it. And I decided to retire after that little stint. So you retired January 28 of 2020. That was the official retirement announcement. Yeah.
Okay. And when did your book come out?
June of this year.
Okay. So it's new.
Yes.
Man, what a story. So I got a couple questions I got to run you through and then I'll let you get on your way. But being that you're on the Winning the Moment podcast, I find it fascinating to ask people these questions. And I'm really curious to hear your answer, but what's the biggest win you've ever had?
The biggest win I ever had was a loss.
Ooh, love it.
And it happened in junior high school. it was, and I was wrestling at the time, something that I just was, I joined the wrestling team as a way to get in shape and as something else to do after school because I was just a high energy dude that was always looking for something to do. Got talked into wrestling and I was awful. I didn't win a match for 2 years. I was brutal. I spent those 2 years like on my back, just getting the crap kicked out of me. We got a new coach in my ninth grade year, and he actually taught me how to use my skinny, wiry frame to my advantage as opposed to trying to like muscle up with other guys because
Yeah.
I just wasn't that guy. Didn't know what a barbell was, never saw the weight room, you know. And so I didn't win a match up until I think like 2 years, 2.5 years. I think I started off that year like 0-5, just not good. And then I finally won a match with something that my coach had taught me and we'd worked on. And then I won another match. And then by time that was over, the district tournament had come around and I got the 7th seed out of 8. And the only reason I didn't get the 8th seed was because somebody in my weight class got moved up and they replaced him with somebody from the other weight class. And so that guy became automatic 8th seed. So that's the only reason I wasn't the 8th seed. And I ended up like winning my first match, and then I won my second match, and then I lost my third match to the guy who ended up winning the tournament. And he beat me to a pulp early in the year, and then that year I took him to 3 rounds. So I definitely made improvements. And then by time it was all said and done, I was wrestling for 3rd and 4th place against the number 1 seed, a guy that hadn't lost all year, and he had just lost his first match to the guy who won the match, who won the tournament. And we ended up going into extra time. And I ended up losing. I ended up getting I made a slight little mistake and he kind of capitalized on it. And it was like, sudden death. And in that moment, I wasn't even disappointed. I had worked so hard. And I remember I went and sat in, and it's a day of wrestling and you're just so exhausted. It's such a exhausting sport. I walked into the hallway and I just took the singlet down off my shoulders and I just sat against the cold wall. And I just sat there and I was just sitting there. And I remember my dad walking into the hallway as he's looking for me because I just kind of shook hands and didn't really say anything to anybody. And I just kind of walked in the hallway and he just kind of looked at me and I remember just smiling at him. And he had no idea why I was smiling at him. My dad was not a wrestling guy. He didn't understand. He just knew I was a part of it. So he was there to support me. And he had no idea why I was smiling. And I just remember sitting there. I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. This was and I knew it was my last match. And I was like, this is one of the most rewarding, moments of my life as an athlete. I worked so damn hard in order to learn this sport. And then for me to win matches when nobody thought I would. And the disappointment I put into people's faces when I beat them along the way. And for me just to be sitting there, and unfortunately I did lose. But it was just one of those moments where I was like, man, I can do hard things. I can go above and beyond, and I can do things that people don't think I can do. And I can even push myself to new limits every single time if I just apply myself.
That's awesome. What's funny about that is my next question is usually what's your biggest loss? Because I'm trying to help people understand that losses in time with enough runway become successes, right? Because we often look back and say, I wouldn't change that. And so you hit the nail right on the head for me there. And so you grew up high school. Were you in the Pacific Northwest then? Is that where you grew up?
Yes.
And so
I went to
that's how you know Audrey.
What's that?
Is that how you know Audrey then? Because she connected us. Okay.
Audrey and I went to junior high and high school together. I know her. We sat next to each other in a bunch of different classes. I've known Audrey for such a long time.
What a small world, it's amazing how human connection can bring people together. So I'm curious, what was the emotion for you, being that you didn't write the book, but it's about you? How was it the first time you had this book in your hands and flipped through it and saw the pages? What was that feeling like?
It really was kind of one of those terrifying, humble moments where you're just again, I touched on earlier on, I was holding it and I'm like, man, am I really worthy of this? Are people even going to care? Are people going to, read through it and be like, yeah, ho hum, just another ball player, and the more and more I've had, people talk to me about it and people that know me and people that don't comment on it, it really is, it's helped me, kind of look back and realize what I've done is special. What I've done is something that not many have done before. We can turn on the TV and we'll see professional athletes every single day, but what it takes to get there is something that not everybody understands the full complexity of it and the odds of how the odds are not in our favor. So it really is it was a cool moment for me, and to be able to hand it to my dad and, you know, people that I love and care for, and say, you know, just like, it's like a, hey, like, thank you. Like, this is because of you people that, you know, supported me along the way, and, you know, continuously supported me in moments, in weak moments where I thought it, you know, I was done and ready to move on. But, you know, it really was a neat thing to see, you know, especially for my daughters. Because one thing that I've talked to friends and ball players alike in my situation is like, how do we install the work ethic that we showed along the way? How do we install that into our children? Because they were too young to realize, you know, they were too young to understand what it took on a day-to-day basis when no one was watching to obtain this level of athletic ability. And so for me to have like just kind of like a little memoir to my daughters, and for them to one day look through and you know, hopefully say, wow, like this is kind of a lot. This was really cool. And, you know, something they can be proud of as well.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because, you know, you are sitting here kind of talking a little bit about imposter syndrome of like, why me? Who cares? What's this book? And I certainly relate to that when I wrote mine of like, why am I writing a book? You know, like, why do I get the opportunity to do this? And there's so many other people with more compelling stories. And it does take that moment to be like, no, you know what? I've done some awesome stuff. It's my perspective. It's my story. Take it or leave it. Some people love it. Some people might not care for it. But the ones who it does make an impact for is why you wrote it. And the second piece that you hit on is so true for me, that there's something special about the written word. And I don't have any intentions of leaving this earth anytime soon, but to know that like what I think and feel exists on paper. So it's like at any point my children can look at that, or my grandchildren or my great grandchildren. That moment of time is there now forever on the pages of the book, which I think is a pretty cool and rewarding feeling.
That's a great point. You know, it does like it. If we unfortunately do pass before we get to meet a lot of our future family members, you know, at least they can look at pictures and read through the words and say, you know, and possibly know you a little bit more.
Absolutely.
You know you a little bit, you know, like grandparents for myself, you know, I can relate, like, you know, like my grandfather was a great man, but he died when I was, you know, 18, 19, but I didn't get to know him that well, you know, and what I know of him is what I know of him and what I hear of him. Whereas now my daughters and, you know, my stepson, their kids and their kids, there's a book, there's a memoir, there's written word that will potentially help them understand who you were a little bit more, and maybe be a little bit, you know, maybe be proud in their last name, and maybe give them the encouragement or inspiration to try something hard and to, you know, not be afraid to fail.
Absolutely. It's funny. We were, I can't remember where we were. I was on some vacation with my son. My son's 7. I think, we're at like a restaurant ordering like our lunch. And my son's like, you know, my dad wrote a book. And it's like, just to see him be so proud to like tell people about it, you know, I love it. It's a great feeling. But last question I got to ask you, and then I'll let you get on your way for the day. But how do you define success?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I think I can define success for my own personal and my own family is the health and stability, is can I offer my children the things that they want to pursue? Can I be there for them? And like, I think that's me being successful, is having the flexibility in my life now to be on field trips with my children, to take them to practices, to be there with them in practices, to pick them up from school, and to, you know, not have to rely on anybody else to do so. And so it really, for me, success on a family level, it is, you know, me being everywhere and anywhere I possibly can be for my children, and to have, you know, not have to take work home, and to have a cool job to where my office is a baseball field, you know, like during spring training, I get to take my kids to work with me, and we get to watch baseball and eat popcorn and, you know, throw some junk food at them, and, you know, let them enjoy the day. You know, it really is, to me, you know, my dad worked extremely hard, and, you know, he had to travel a lot growing up, and he, in hindsight, shows me how hard he actually worked to make sure he was everywhere and anywhere he possibly could be. You know, even if it was at a baseball game and he's still in his business attire, you know, taking a phone call, but he's still got his eyes on the field.
Yeah.
You know, like and he was able to do that. And I'm afforded this, baseball blessed me with this affordability of being everywhere and anywhere I possibly can be. And if I don't take that, and I'm taking that as best as I can. So it afforded me something because the game is rented. We don't own it. And I'm so blessed that I got to play for so long and be able to put myself into a financial situation to where I can take breaks and I can make sure that my kids are experiencing everything they possibly can that I didn't get to as a child. And whether that be travel or, clubs or, extracurricular activities and things of that nature. It's just, to me, it really is just being able to spend more time with my children and getting to do what most parents dream of doing, which is spending more time with their children without
sacrificing your earning ability
or sacrificing, like a future retirement or anything like that. It really is a tough question because sacrifice, or I guess success, truly does boil down to something that we control, which is happiness and comfortability. But I feel like I'm searching here, but success is really something that it's earned. It really is earned, and it's not guaranteed. So it's more special when you do obtain the abilities that you do have in the current moment. And I take that as my abilities now are to be a flexible and active dad in my kids' lives.
I love that. Well, it's interesting because you do search a little bit because it's so loaded, the question, right? And it's also like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to dads? Are you talking to a kid who just graduated high school and doesn't have a family he's responsible for yet? And I think the important thing for the listeners is to understand that that definition is going to evolve so much, because definitively there was a time in your life where if I asked you that same question, you would say being able to throw 98 miles an hour, And so it's going to change, and give yourself the grace to understand that. And then also to realize that you do get to define it. So like really what you said is you've created your own definition for success, as we all should. I think too many people start out not defining it, so then they're in pursuit of someone else's definition. And I think that's where we get stuck in the rat race. One thing you said that I really love, I wrote it down, is the game is rented. We don't own it. And that is an awesome line. And I love that. And sports has been such a huge impact in my life. That's why my book has that sports theme. It's why we're talking about winning and losing. Even like now I'm 37. I was playing pickleball last night with some friends, and my buddy is like, we got to beat them. I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, I don't like to lose. I was like, me neither. I like to win so much I wrote a book about it. Like that competitive spirit is still there, even if four older, no longer athletic men are playing pickleball, which is meant for like old people, I still want to win. And so I think there's something really, really fun about the passion and pursuit of that. It's obviously an honor to have a professional baseball player on the podcast. Now we've had someone from the NFL, someone from the MLB, so I just got to get an NBA player on here, and we've got the trifecta of the major sports. But that being said, for any of the listeners, A Baseball Gaijin is available pretty much anywhere books are sold digitally, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. If you're in California or Texas, you can get it off the shelf. I'll put those links in this episode, so you can just buy it right from there. I'll also put, Tony, any other links that are important for you that you want me to include in those show notes?
I'll just add all that stuff to you. I'll send it.
Oh, perfect.
I possibly can, as far as media release and anything that anybody wants to look into. I really do appreciate the platform. I really do appreciate you having me on and giving me the opportunity to share part of my story with you today.
Oh, I loved it. Loved hearing the stories. I love sports so much. So anytime you can get an inside glimpse, and even like the story of throwing to Mike Trout or hitting Pujols, or even just the emotion of being there on opening day, as such an avid pursuer of sports, I love whenever I get the opportunity to hear what it was like from inside the arena. So I really appreciate that sharing with me, and thanks for taking the time today. And I look forward to getting to know you better.
Awesome, Cody. Thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one, Tony.
All right. You too.
Okay. So this episode will be out on Wednesday. So I'll usually have more of a runway before my episodes, but I'll try and have my editor rush some clips, and then I'll collaborate with you on those as they come out. And then I'll send you all the links. It's everywhere that podcasts are, but I'll send you like the YouTube, the iTunes, and the Spotify, because those are the three main ones.
Okay, I will. What I'll also do, if you can CC, I'll send you the email for the author. He's
Okay.
doing a lot of
Yeah.
work for this stuff
Yeah,
as
of
well.
course.
I'll send you that email, his email, so you can even when you send all that stuff to me, you can CC it directly to him
Absolutely.
too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Like, it's funny. Like, I was just talking to my wife the other day. We're talking about like sports and how, because she's an athletic director at a college, and some people in administration, they just don't understand sports and they don't understand the intricacies of it, that all the work that goes into it. And I'm like, listen, people need to understand. There's a reason why the NHL, the MLB, the NBA, the MLB, and MLS, like, they're multi-billion-dollar facilities, because they really are the most constant level of entertainment that this world has to offer.
And it's one of the few things that's like real live entertainment. Like,
people don't.
You can't scroll Twitter if you're watching a compelling sporting event, because you're going to miss it.
I know. And there, people they can sit there and be like, oh, well, Tom Cruise makes good movies. We're all like, yeah, well, like Bryce Harper plays good baseball. Like, it's.
Well, yeah. And how good of a pitcher would you be if you got to take retakes every time you threw a bad pitch? You know what I mean?
Like, oh man, you have nightmares about the ones you want to pull back.
100%.
Like the ones that just leave your hand, and the second it leaves your fingertips, it's destined for something terrible to happen. And next thing you know, you're looking over your shoulder and watching a ball sail out of the stadium at 420 feet.
Oh, brother. All right. Well, Tony, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. We'll be in contact. And I go to Arizona all the time, so next time I'm down there, I'll give you a shout.
I would love it. Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Cody.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
All right. Take care.